Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for another office hours training. I'm Crystal Dunn, your financial strategist and small business advisor. And part of my job as that strategist is to help you have some aha moments. I think that has to be my favorite part of the job because it's those self discovery moments and helping you see what no longer serves you so that you can release them and soar. All of that helps with the breakthroughs. That's where you start to shift. That's where the magic happens, be it in your personal finances or your overall business. I have not been on office hours for the last 2 days. My week this week is insane. So the schedule is crazy, but I'm grateful because seeds that have been planted are blooming all over the place. And I approach everything with this, I don't know, this amazing amount of gratitude. So I'm grateful for you today. Let's talk credit again. And I have been giving information on credit basics and how to start to clean up your credit reports and everything else. So go back and watch those credit episodes. It's a lot of information in there, and rewatch them as many times as you need to in order to get from it what you need so that you can positively impact your personal credit relationship. And so, again, I want to talk about using credit effectively with wherever you are in your credit situation. Um, and if you know me, I think of things a little differently and I try to raise points or ideas to make you think differently. That sometimes the cookie cutter way or what's being suggested as a way to do a thing may not be the way that you need to do a thing. There is no cookie cutter. There are things that happen that are just what they are, right? An interest rate over here is just what the interest rate is. So, 35% of your credit score is based off your payment history. That just is what it is, right? But how do you approach the things, not necessarily in the cookie cutter way that people tell you to approach a thing, but how do you approach a thing so that it's working for you, right? And not for somebody else. Again, your financial relationship being defined by outside forces, but trying to redefine it so that it works for you. So, how do you use credit effectively for maintaining financial health and building great credit? As you implement these practices, as you start to think about these things, as you start to redefine your financial personal relationship and your financial credit relationship, so your overall financial relationship, so that it works for you. Because sometimes you get information that doesn't really work for you or works for you, but it still also has to work for someone else or some other organization or some other company. So, how do you use the things and how do you approach them so that they work for you? Right. So, when it comes to credit cards, they will tell you to keep balances low. So, you will hear some variation of this statement. Try to keep your credit card balances well below the credit limits. A key factor in your credit score is the credit utilization ratio, which is the percentage of your credit limit that you're using. So watch this. Experts recommend keeping the ratio below 30% to positively impact your credit score. Okay. So a lot of times people hear the 30% and they're keeping their balance below 30%, and it does impact your score because the closer your balance is to the limit, the more of a credit hit you will take, right? So the higher your utilization, And utilization is simply how much of the limit are you using? So, what's the ratio between your balance and your limit on your credit card? So, two things when you talk about credit card balances and limits. The higher your balance is to the limit, the more of a hit you're going to take on your credit score. And if your balance goes over the limit, you're also going to take another hit on your credit score. So sometimes I see or talk to people and their scores are low, closer to 600 than to 720, right? But the reason that their scores are low is solely because of the balances that they're carrying on their credit card. So their utilization, because they haven't missed a payment. So it's not because of late payments. It's simply because their balances are low. And when we start to bring those balances down, their scores start to tick up, right? So had a conversation with someone the other day. They just wanted a checkup. They wanted to do not a checkup. They wanted to do a check-in. They wanted to see if they were on the right track for something that they want to do later this year. And I say it 1,000 times. Make sure your credit is intact before you need your credit. Don't wait until you need it or you need it in 30 to 60 days and then you want to try to do all of the things to fix it, because everything with credit is going to take time to it takes time because it runs in 30-day cycles, right? And so she had, low 700 credit scores, which was awesome. And just a few credit cards. Like, she doesn't really have any other debt, just a few credit cards. But what she was doing on the credit cards was keeping the balance just below the 30% because she heard that 30% marker out there. She was keeping the balances below 30%. So every month she was carrying a balance, but she was still keeping a balance, right? So I said, okay, well, this thing is this, you got to look at this differently. I said, you have the ability to pay it off every single month, which in reality is what you should be doing. Because if you don't pay it off every month and you're carrying a balance, whatever it is, I don't care if it's $2 balance, you're carrying a balance and you're paying an interest on that balance. The beauty and the benefit of, especially for something that you're going to pay anyway, people are paying let's just use your cell phone bill. You're paying your cell phone bill in full every single month. You're paying it in full every single month. Now, I'm going to tell you that we should be using our credit cards to pay the things like that, cell phones, utilities, insurance, right? Instead of your debit cards or, coming into your bank account and then setting up that automatic payment to pay that credit card balance in full the next month. So if you're using your credit card to pay your cell phone, which you should be, right? Say your cell phone bill is $100, but now you get the credit card bill and you don't pay that $100 to pay that balance off. Now you're paying interest on whatever you remain over there. So that cell phone bill, instead of $100, became $105, $110. I don't know, depending upon whatever balance you're carrying, right? Because now you're paying interest on that. So keeping balances low, that's going to benefit. So it's part of a benefit to you, but the bigger benefit winds up being to the credit card company. Because if you're carrying a balance, you're paying them interest. And so we know, you know, I don't know, the system isn't going to be set up to rob the credit card companies of that interest. So what then do they tell you? Oh, keep the balances below 30%. And some people think, well, I'm fine. But again, you wind up paying the interest on that. So you have to think about what works for you. Now, I'm a firm believer. If you make a large purchase, you had to go get a furnace. You may not pay that off, unfortunately, you know, on that next bill, on that 30-day cycle. But set up a plan. How many cycles does it take? How many months are you going to say, well, you know what, I'm going to pay this off in 4 months? You know that you're going to have to pay a little bit of interest, right? But to pay interest on a sweater that you bought, or to pay interest on your cell phone bill or your gas or lights bill, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what works for you in that? And a lot of times people will say, the interest rate is high. And I'm like, if if you're paying your balance off every month, it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. Now, you don't want to just go out there and get all the credit cards with high interest rates. That's not what I'm saying. But someone who may have a credit card and they say, oh my God, my interest rate is really high. Okay, well, let's show you how to use that one so that you're definitely not ever carrying a balance on that, right? It might be you put your water bill on there. Your water bill is $70 every single month. Okay, well, you were going to pay that in full anyway. So $70. So again, redefining your relationship, not totally off of what someone else is saying or what we're being fed, right? But work works for you, for what you're trying to accomplish, for how you're trying to redefine your financial relationship, what works for you and in your best interest, right? The other one is diversify your credit. They say having a mix of different types of credit, such as revolving credit like credit cards or installment loans like auto loans, can positively affect your credit score. However, it's important to only apply for new credit when necessary, as too many inquiries in a short period can negatively impact your score. I absolutely agree with only applying for new credit when necessary, right? I also know you can have over a 700 credit score with just two credit cards. Okay. What's the thing that works for you? We live in a world where most people can't afford to buy a new car with cash or a house with cash. So we understand that there's this credit game that we got to play in anyway. And having those credit cards so that you can use and receive the perks for the credit cards so that companies don't have access to whatever is going on in your bank account when you're using your debit card and the fraud that can happen with that. So we understand why we need to play the credit game and what that looks like. And hopefully, really, really soon, the credit game is going to look differently, or the credit landscape is going to look differently. However, again, absolutely agree with only applying for new credit when necessary. And what's the plan for the new credit, right? If you're applying for another credit card, why? One, I'm not a fan of store credit cards. So if you're applying for another credit card, why? What's the purpose? Um, but then what are you doing with the other types of credit? So I've seen people come and say, they talked to someone and someone told them because they were working on and trying to build their credit that um, they need a credit card and they need a secured loan. And I've even seen some credit unions tell their members, oh, get the secured loan. And they'll put them in a secured loan and not necessarily a secured credit card. And my preference is the secured credit card for um, being able to jumpstart your scores, because if you're using it effectively, you're going to see, right, that change in your credit score, and your credit score continue to tick up. And so, yes, if you have to have an auto loan, absolutely, you have the auto loan. If you have to have the mortgage loan, absolutely, you have the mortgage loan. If you went and got a personal loan because you needed a new furnace, absolutely, you went and you got the personal loan. And yes, and I a firm believer in everybody should have at least credit cards, even if they don't have those other things. So that's a mix. That's a credit type mix, because you have to have that credit type mix. If you don't have to have that credit type mix, then don't go out there and say, "Oh God, they say you should have a good mix of your credit of credit of a good mix of loan types on your credit report in order to see really great scores." That's not true, right? Like my daughter, over a 700 credit score, she had two credit cards, right? It's about how you're using what you're using. Plus, having a credit mix is only 10% of your score. So don't try to build the credit mix unless You need the credit mix. Did you get it? So some things they push on you when people go down that road and say, oh, I got to have this, I got to have this. Think the process through, which ultimately leads us into my favorite things, which is what? Credit coaching with me. Why? For those very things. So I'm going to always ask the questions that you need to address as opposed to just doing a thing because it's been heard before. So my consultations, my favorite things. If you are not sure what you need to do, if you know you need to do something, schedule a consultation and let's talk about it. Even if you think you're sure, let's talk about it. I just told you the story about the woman who wants to do something later. She wants to buy a house later. And we talked about the credit today, and she was carrying balances because she had heard the 30% rule. Show over 700 credit score. Why are you now carrying? You know what I mean? Like, why you didn't have to carry those balances and to get that uh, over 700 credit score? But why are we paying interest on things that we don't need, right? And so you hear a lot of stuff on social media, even through me. But being able, and it's bits and pieces because someone can't give it all to you this way, right? But having that conversation and understanding why you need to do a thing a certain kind of way based on what you specifically are trying to accomplish. So it's one conversation sometimes to get some answers and direction that you need. Stop trying to figure stuff out yourself, right? It's like you're trying to figure out what's wrong with your brand new car, trying to figure out what exactly is causing the pain in your chest. The consultation links are below. Get with the consultations. And then if you need credit repair, credit coaching, and all of that stuff, we do all of that. Because I don't just help you repair your credit. I also coach you how to use it effectively and how to build it. So it's not just credit repair. It really and truly is coaching. So the consultation links are below. Check them out. Next thing is always the to-dos, right? And we know, I say it every time, life is about elevation. It's taking a journey. So the next steps that I give are always part of this journey. Typically, I give 3 next steps, and there's a whole thing with me and the letter 3, the Trinity. So, but it's taking the journey one step at a time so that you can get the most out of the journey. It's why I break it down into small steps. It's why I suggest you're not just trying to jump from the bottom to the top landing. 1, you can't. But 2, it's the journey. The journey, like the destination is great, but what you pick up and learn on the journey stays with you forever, and you get to have positive impact on other people with the knowledge that you gained during the journey. And then you do the small things. You take the small steps. You look back, you heal, and you've climbed a mountain. This week, I only got one thing. It's just one thing in your next steps. Schedule your credit consultation. Stop suffering. Like I always say, it's a shame that you're watching me. It's a shame that you follow me on social media. It's a shame that you know me from a distance or you know me personally and you don't have over 700 credit score, that you don't have an efficient and effective budget, that you don't have life insurance, a will, a power of attorney. It doesn't make sense. I'm right here for the thing, right? Make a decision. If your credit is not where you want it to be, schedule a consultation with me and let's talk about it, whatever you do. And if not with me, somebody. Like I always say, like I know how dope I am, and I know 30-minute conversation with me will change your life. However, might not be your cup of tea, but whatever you do, don't do the same thing you've done in previous years and expect something different. Don't be in the same place 6 months from now. Start it today. Today is the first day. What's the saying? Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Start it today. It's time to level up and improve your financial relationship so that you can live the life you desire and not the one that you get after paying bills. Talked to somebody yesterday and he's married and they have children that live at home, and he called because, and like he knows a lot of the things to do, because even in the consultation and we were talking, he knows and has a good grasp of things to do. But the thing that he said was he needed help pulling it all together. And I had to stop him and applaud him for that because he knows some things. But he also said he had not been able to pull it all together to make it work. right, to make it work. There were things that he has done that I was like, yeah, I'm going to tell you to do some of these things. Some of this is going to be your homework that he was doing. So he had bits and pieces of the thing. He just didn't know how to put the puzzle together. Right? He didn't know how to put the puzzle together. He makes really good money. His wife makes really good money. He just didn't know how to put the puzzle piece together. And when I asked why he called, he said, because things are not bad now. He said, but I feel things getting tight. And so before I do a thing, I want to talk with and talk about what should I be doing. He contemplated filing I was going to say filing for divorce. He had contemplated filing for bankruptcy. Told him, hold on, let's take a look at his entire system. He had contemplated doing a debt consolidation loan. Again, hold on. He had contemplated doing a debt relief program, right? I never, ever suggest those. But he realized that he needed to have a conversation, even though he had some good ideas and some good thoughts and some good practices already. He knew he needed help with pulling it all together so that it worked. And he didn't want to make any mistakes by doing something he just totally didn't understand, or didn't understand totally. Had some concept of it, but didn't understand it totally, and or the ramifications, the repercussions, how it would impact him and all of the things, and wanted to know if there was a different way to do things. Sometimes a conversation is just about finding out a different way to do a thing that may work more to your benefit than what you thought. And then the other flip side of that is that consultation or that conversation might be, you know what, you're dead on point. That's exactly what you should do. Keep doing that. Or yes, do that and then consider this. Or do that, and then after you've done that, these are the next 2 or 3 things that you need to do. And so working with me, I have an opportunity, or any coach, they have an opportunity. I can see you're standing in the middle of your situation. I don't even want to call it a storm. You're standing in the middle of your situation. I say the same thing with business owners. You're standing in the middle of your business. What I have the ability to do is look from the top down and from the outside in to get a 360 picture of what's going on, to be able to help you come up with strategy to improve and to reach your goals, right? That's all that this is. And a lot of therapy. And a lot of therapy. We have a lot of fun. So schedule your consultation. Again, the link is in the bio. I'm sorry, in the description. And as always, as we wrap up for today, always give yourself some grace. Always, always, always give yourself some grace, right? Don't be embarrassed about whatever is going on. Whatever's happened has already happened. What you should be embarrassed about is not what has happened, not your current situation. You should be embarrassed about having somebody that you can talk to resolve the situation, to build from the situation, and you don't reach out. That's the thing that's embarrassing. So if you're in need of personal strategy or business strategy, let's talk about it. But always, 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 always give yourself some grace. Keep striving for your next level and never give up on you. Invest in you. And I promise you, it is the best investment that you will make, and it will absolutely positively change your life. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time. Peace. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Be sure to join me for the private online Q&A immediately following. The link is in the description. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn notifications on so you never miss this opportunity. Thank you again, and I will see you on the other side.